Okay, who's given up? This is terrible. I did get a hold of Maria, and so I think we should be good because I did reach her and said, "Do not get on." Oh my gosh, so
You're
sorry.
killing me, Smalls. That's what you
I
say to
keep
her.
thinking it's me.
It's
Okay,
okay. We don't cave to adversity.
okay, there you
Martha?
go. This is our culture. You can go forward. Oh, geez. Okay,
I
so
think it's exciting.
like I say, hopefully we didn't lose everybody. And but I did reach her this time, so we're a-okay. I think she understands why, because she was trying to figure out why she kept getting bumped off. So anyway, all right, let's go forward. Let's go forward and hope everybody joins us and it's good to go because we've wasted their time. All right. So, Liz, let's start with you. And, I'm thinking that the majority of the people on the call are going to know you, but still give a little recap. They're probably not going to know Josh or Kurt as well. And I see, Josh, you're muted. I'll unmute you. And we should be good to go.
Okay, so my name is Liz Trotter, and I own American Made Cleaning in Olympia, Washington. And I'm also co-owner and castle keepers of a few different locations. And I also am a partner in Cleaning Business Builders. It's kind of an education company for cleaning business owners. And I've been in this cleaning industry for a little over 20 years. If you include my dry cleaning experience, then closer to 30 years. And I just like to clean.
Yeah, but why? People in the cleaning industry do consider you the culture guru. And why do you think that is? I mean, I know.
Let's see. I think the reason that is the people that come to work for me stay with me for a long time. And I don't have the majority of the problems that I hear other people are having. My people come to work, they do their job well. We don't have to have quality control people to check work. I don't have people milking the clock. I don't have people that don't show up for interviews. I mean,
so we're going to talk about hopefully why you don't have that, but we'll, because that's your culture. And anyway, so we'll move on to, how about Josh? And then we'll come back to that. Yay.
Hi, everybody. How are you? My name's Josh Latimer. I'm in Michigan right now, and I am the CEO of a software business right now. That's really fancy sounding, but it's called Radius Bomb and SendGem. That's my primary gig. But I started cleaning windows and pressure washing houses and cleaning roofs and things like that with a little business near Flint, Michigan. I started with a 93 Chevy Cavalier with a 28-foot ladder strapped to the roof of my little car, and I drove around and I did estimates, and I was terrified, and I lived in a trailer park with my high school sweetheart, Ashley. Long story short, through the power of like systems and networking with smart people and learning and culture, huge part of it, we scaled that business up to just shy of a couple $100,000 a month, eventually sold it, and then I started focusing on the software thing. So lots of pain and suffering, a little bit of success. One of the biggest reasons we had any success was our team, because that's all a company is, right? A company is just a bunch of people doing stuff, right, together, at least in theory. And so that's what helped us succeed, was me learning how to delegate and inspire people and move our culture.
Sounds good. Kurt.
It's so funny because Josh, what he just said is exactly my story, except for I had a 95 Nissan hardbody extended cab, so it was a little bit nicer. Anyway, and I lived in a condo, not a, so I didn't have a little Cavalier, and I didn't live on a trailer. I lived in a little condo with 2 kids. But yeah, window cleaning, pressure washing world, started with nothing, grew it up, and sold it, and start a software company. It's like literally the same exact story.
He stole your story.
Well, I guess so, but you know, if I could just flatter him by stealing his story back, you know, I don't know. So basically now I sold my window cleaning pressure washing company. I do Responsibid software, and I just like working with business owners to help them basically get out of. I understand the plight of the entrepreneur, and I know what it's like to wear every single hat in the business, and sort of like I think everybody else here, that's sort of where the care and concern, you know, Liz talks about not having the same employee problems. Well, I did have a lot of employee problems before I figured out some of the things that really, really helped. And we'll, I'm sure, talk about those at the conference and tonight and today. But man, I know what it's like to be laying in bed, sick to your stomach, and not knowing why you won't just fire this guy that you can't stand working for you. And I know how to get out of it too. And it feels really good to like love your company. So.
Right. Sounds good. Sounds good. So again, I know Liz really well from the cleaning business world. Josh, I've met through Syngym and, you know, Radius Bomb, Automate, Grow, Sell, could go on and on. But the reason that, you know, I asked you, Josh, to talk about culture, which is slightly different than what you're doing now. In a way, I mean, Syngym is about culture, but like I've told you before, it made an impression on me when you talked about that first Christmas party where you had prizes and, you know, all this, and you had the one employee. And, you know I've listened to podcasts where you've talked about culture, and I'm like, yep, this guy gets it. You understood that investing in your culture and your people paid off dividends to you. And then Kurt, when I met you and you talked about your 5-star certification program, your tagline, where I may not get it right.
Customer service company that just happens to do windows.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I
didn't even know what customer service was back in those days.
But your customers taught you. Anyway, so at the end, you guys are going to have a chance to ask some of your own questions. That's the great thing about being on here live versus recorded. But I'm going to get it started asking some things, and then we'll try to save time at the end. So I'll ask a question, and then I'm going to let you guys take turns answering, and then we may switch it up, who's going first and so forth. But I want you to think back when you first started your service business and describe what your culture was like in the beginning, and then it's going to be long if we do it this way, but it makes the most sense. Describe what it was like in the beginning, what was broken, if anything, and then, you know, a brief synopsis of what you did to come to where you are now. We'll talk more about where your culture is now for Liz and where your culture was when you sold it, Kurt and Josh. But so let's see. Kurt, start first this time. You're showing.
Okay. All right. So when I started my company, it was just me, obviously. One of the things that I got to know all of my customers personally, and I was picking up the phone when they called and introducing themselves and myself all the way till the invoice. It was all me. And so when I first started hiring employees, my biggest shock of all was that my employees didn't treat my customers the same way I did. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, don't you know how awesome this customer is? Like, they pay our bills, you know, and they'd be like, oh, that dumb old customer, or, oh, you know, they would just say things, and I was so naive. Like, literally, you have to know this. I graduated from ASU's Business College as the outstanding graduating student. So when I got done, they surprised me at the graduation ceremony. They called me up, and I didn't get valedictorian, they said, we want to introduce we've never done this before. This is ASU's outstanding graduating student from W.P. Carey School of Business. And I don't know what that means. I'm just standing there going, what? You know, and they gave me this award and all this other stuff. Anyway, on the way home, my wife, Rachel, she's like, we're going to be rich, aren't we? And I'm like, absolutely. I mean, what else could that mean? But when I got out there and started working and hiring employees, I realized how little I knew. I literally think that I might have gotten dumber in college. And and so when I got out and I started working with my customers and started trying to work with my employees, I started finding out that they would just take the shortest path, the path of least resistance. And so I guess I knew why, I just didn't understand how they could do such a thing to my business. Whether it was just not regular courtesies to customers, showing up late, not showing up at all, whether it was just leaving tools on the job site, it's a big one for me, just a lot of things. And so I knew that the more employees I would hire to fix my problem, you could probably imagine the worse my problem got. And so without getting into all the nuts and bolts of it, I basically, I told you earlier, I called my business, our tagline was, 5-star window care, a customer service company that happens to do windows. And I came from the bike world. All the way through college, I managed a bicycle store, and I thought I was going to be a professional mountain biker. And I was on target to do that until we started having kids and realized, like, I'm never going to be home. And that really sucks for my wife. And if I don't win, do my kids starve? So that's when I started realizing, as I was graduating from school, that I needed to do something different. And so in working with customers in a retail environment, I thought I understood customer service. And to me, customer service is this simple. Just make sure that your customers are happy, which is really big and vague and everything else. And that was my downfall, actually, with my employees, is that I just thought that having good manners would make it so everything would be great. And unfortunately, we don't all see the world through the same set of lenses. We weren't all taught the same manners growing up. My mom wasn't, Joe's mom. My work ethic wasn't Joe's work ethic. And I realized that I had to teach my employees who I needed them to be. And then the bigger realization was I needed to incentivize them to act like me. So a lot of people talk about commission pay, and a lot of people talk about hourly pay. And neither one of those actually incentivizes your employees to do the things that you do. Because as an owner, you're not paid by commission or by hourly. You're paid off of a totally different set of standards. And actually, that's why I wish quality-driven software existed back in those days, because I was doing a lot of what, probably not everything, but most of what quality-driven was doing, I was doing on an Excel spreadsheet. And I was devoting hours and hours a week to start tracking it. And the moment I started tracking it, paying my employees based on customer happiness and making sure I knew what those metrics were that I was going to measure, and then reinforcing that and changing my role as understanding that if we're going to be a customer service company, I have to be an employee-based owner, focused owner. So once I realized that I'm the coach of the team, and the team is making baskets by making people happy, once I got that in my head, things really changed. And then I sold my company. So we can get more into it later, but I've already talked too much.
No, that was awesome.
You're fine. Well, I'm going to have Liz go next, because Liz actually calls her employees players, and she has coaches and managers, general manager. That's her culture with American Made. So I'm going to have her go, because you talked about playing.
Yep, that's true. So my initial story when I first got into the business and started hiring people is a lot different than people think now, seeing me. I started cleaning because I really wanted a job where I could take my kid to work, and I thought, cleaning houses, how hard is that? It's easy. Let's just, take my kid to work and no problem. And when I first started hiring employees, my culture was amazing. And the reason it was amazing, is I was just having people help me. It was just sort of this family atmosphere, and I was just hiring people. And it was kind of weird how I was hiring them. I was like, you want to help me? Awesome. I've got this great vision. I've got this great plan. It's going to be so amazing. Oh, and I'll pay you too if you want money. And they're like, oh, yeah, sure. Some money would be good. All right, cool. So my whole vision has always been around the money comes secondary. The money, people want to be paid, sure. But really, more than being paid, people want something that's exciting and something that they want to do and something that is that they can feel passionate about. So when I first started my company, super easy, culture was awesome because everybody was helping each other and we're all just working toward this great goal. And then all of a sudden I realized, gosh, I really need to make some money. And so I started infusing my business with a lot more of the standard business principles. And as I started doing that, I started pulling away from my employees and creating this culture of let's earn money, let's make a business, let's do these things the right way. And my culture started really tanking. And so then I had to figure out, oh, what the heck, what's different, what's going on? Why don't these people want to work? And what's the deal here? Although I did have my very first employee for like 19 years. And then my second employee, Mindy, who still works with us today, is, like I said, still working with us. But the other people we were hiring, because it was all about work. But as we transitioned back into what my culture is, which is a culture of helping and caring and continuous improvement and treating people like they want to be treated instead of like I want to be treated. A lot of times we hear, treat other people like you want to be treated. And I'm really against that attitude. I'm more of the attitude of treat people like they want to be treated. And by doing that, they also end up treating you and your customers like they want to be treated. It's called the Platinum Rule. And so once we started working more along those lines again, and we started building up our culture. I had this company name, American Made. I wanted a way to be able to use this brand. And so I came up with this sports theme, and we all wear jerseys and we all have codes on our jerseys. So I wanted to create this team idea. And so we have team coaches. I'm the head coach, Amy. And we have assistant coaches and players and team members. And that all, people think that's my culture, but it's not really. Those are just the names that help other people to identify what our culture is. Because without it, they don't really know how to grab onto the culture. I do, but other people don't. So culture's sticky. It's tricky and it's sticky. And how people define culture is different. Like as Kurt is defining his culture is going to be different than how I will define it, and also different than how Josh is going to define it as well. Even though I've never heard any of these people or met, I actually have heard Josh a lot, but even though I've never met them, I know that we all have different ideas of what culture is, because it's different. It's tricky.
Yep. Okay.
Sorry, talking a lot again.
It's okay. We all have that problem. So, Josh, I'm going to have you give your story.
Sure. Liz, that was awesome, by the way. I can't believe you guys have uniforms and jerseys. That's like the coolest thing I've ever heard about. And we have to talk about that in my podcast sometime. So great to meet you, by the way.
Thanks, you too.
The first thing I'd like to say is that everybody watching this already has culture. And I think sometimes these words are like these corporate kind of weird words. It's like, systems and architecture, what culture? And it sounds like Fortune 500. But if you work by yourself right now, you already have a fully developed culture. So the question isn't, should you focus on culture? The question is your culture serving you well, right? Is it delivering the outcome you desire for your business? Because my story as far as culture goes is that I was very self-centered in the beginning, which I think is natural. I left a very safe and secure job at JP Morgan Chase. Safe and secure, right? Does that even exist now? I don't think it does. But because I came from a blue-collar family, I was a complete wacko. for leaving this job as a banker to start squeegeeing glass with my little car and my ladder, right? But I desired freedom, and I had this fire in my belly that I knew I could figure it out. It turned out to be much more difficult than I originally anticipated, and there was massive pain and suffering for the first 2 full seasons. But what happened was I was trying to survive, and I think for a lot of businesses, because there's a lot of pressure, there's stress, it's totally overwhelming. If you don't have a business, you do not understand the gut-wrenching, heart-burning things that can come from having a business. And everybody on here obviously gets that. But my family didn't. But I would grind, and I kept thinking about myself. How do I get dollars? How do I make $817 by Tuesday? How do I pay the bill? How do I get groceries? How do I make it work? How do I serve me? Me. And if I look back, which is so much easier to look back, because I really didn't understand this in the moment of going through that initial couple years, the biggest thing that transitioned is that I started to focus on other people, kind of like the coach and the players thing. I did it inadvertently. Maybe it was a little bit intuitive. I started to read some books and stuff. But when I was in the corporate world, people talked about this phrase called human capital. Have you ever watched like CNN Money or something? And they're like, human capital and blah, 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 and the unemployment rate. It's like we talk about employees as if they're like this spreadsheet full of numbers or something. There's no such thing as human capital. There's just humans. And a company is just a bunch of humans doing stuff, right? And so if you're in a group of humans and you're trying to serve yourself, which is what a really small business tends to do without realizing it, because I got to make money. I got to have my business succeed. Me, right? Profitability, pay my bills. What happens is that you're a human among other humans. It's very obvious that you care primarily about yourself. When I pivoted that, and maybe it was like the Zig Ziglar quote, the famous Zig Ziglar quote of, if you can help others get what they want, then you're just automatically going to like get what you want, right? If you add value to the marketplace or you add value to your staff, really good stuff happens. And you can't perfectly plan out exactly the ROI you're going to get by having a deep conversation with the single mom that works for you. But there's massive value wrapped up in that single conversation. And there's massive value wrapped up in just caring about your humans that you're working with. So I did a lot of different things. And if you want later, we can talk about tactics. But I got really deep into what I call planned randomness. I'll explain that later. And also I data mined my employees because I started to realize when I read the book, The 5 Love Languages, it's a marriage book. And I would like talk to my wife. I'm like, you are so weird to me. You're like this creature from Venus, right? And I'm from Mars. But I started to understand that like different people react differently in terms of how they receive love or how they receive being appreciated, right? You got the people who are like physical touch, but then you got gifts, you got quality time, you have words of affirmation, and another one that I can't think of. But what I realized is that the same thing is true for the people that work with me. And if I could find a way to figure out who they are as humans, not a number in a spreadsheet, what their deal is, what their hobby is, what their why is, why do they show up to work in the first place? Why do they show up to the interview? Do they have $12,000 in student loans that feels like Mount Everest to them? It literally feels impossible for them to dig out from under that. Maybe that's the thing that keeps them up at night. Or maybe they want to get married, but they can't because they're embarrassed because they don't have a house and they live with their mom, but they want to just get their nice little starter home and they want to. Everybody has a thing. Every single person. Why? Because they're a human. So I really humanized everything, and I went deep on deeply caring about my staff. That makes it a lot easier to build a company, to get people to rally behind you, and to follow you. And if you're wondering if you're a leader, it's really easy to find out if you're a leader. Just ask yourself, is anybody following you? Like, if they're not, like if you turn around and you're like, charge, and you turn around and there's no one there, well, you're not a leader. But I think it's a developed skill. And so you can become one. How do you get people to follow you? It's because they know that you will die on your sword for them and that it's authentic and real. And as cheesy as that sounds for a little cleaning company, I am 100% totally dead serious with this stuff. And that passion, it's transferable and it bleeds onto the people around you. And it makes business a lot more fun, and it makes it a lot easier to grow quickly.
Mm-hmm. Just yesterday, there was a conversation in a Facebook group, and it was about, what are your biggest employee issues? And what I noticed in the group is, honestly, and I'm not I'm not trying to be negative towards anybody. I wish that people could see this. Not that I have it all figured out, but from observing, I see people be negative about their employees. And then, as an observer, I'm like, well, there's a reason that they do this, and this to you, because you act like you can't stand them. And, it was all about, all they do is cheat on their time card, or all they do is not show up to work, or all they do. And I know, Kurt, I saw in your outline talking about the victim mentality. And, I feel like as business owners, sometimes people get in a rut acting as the victim and not realizing they're contributing to the culture. So what I want to ask you, and Josh, we'll start with you, is you work with lots of people. You see them in this negative mentality, and they just don't believe that culture matters and that they can turn it around. Because you all three work with people, how do you get them from this negative mentality about their workers to seeing that they're the biggest part of the problem?
Well, how do you get someone that just genuinely doesn't love their wife to just start loving their wife? I don't even know. I mean, and this is why a very small percentage of businesses are really big and profitable machines that have amazing culture with high wages for everybody, and they're this fantasy unicorn awesome business. Most people won't fully get this. There's a large percentage of people that will refuse to get this. It is what it is. But for anybody with eyes to see and ears to hear, here's the thing. You already have culture. And have you ever heard the phrase that you can only see the world through your own lens, right? Like Kurt mentioned, we all view through different lenses. For example, if you're a thief, you're the guy that is paranoid that everybody's stealing from you all the time. If you're the guy who's having affairs and cheating on your spouse, you are convinced every Saturday that your wife, when she goes to pick up the hot and ready pizza, is definitely having an affair, right? Like of course she is, because that's reality to you. And so I don't know how to fix that. That's like a major, lay on a chair with a psychologist question. All I know is that everybody that works for you is going to do exactly what you do, but a little bit less. And if you can understand that, you can start to behave yourself in a different way to kind of raise the tide, right? If you're positive and you're happy and you're going places and you're motivated and you're investing in people, will people still screw you over? Yes. But what's going to happen is it's going to naturally weed out some of that cancer, right? I mean, the more people you surround yourself with that buy into your leadership, your positivity, you actually caring about their life, they're going to change. It does take time, but they're going to change. And, one example of culture that was really cool was when I worked for Quicken Loans. There's this huge national mortgage company. And I was like this young guy just selling mortgages like a maniac on the phone, like just making all this money. But the culture is so strong in this company. It was big. There's 2,000 bankers at that time and thousands more just in one building. And the building had this sign on the outside of the building. It said Quicken Loans. It was a huge commercial building, and the light bulbs burned out on part of the sign. And an employee that worked in HR, just some random person, is walking into the building, and she sees that the sign's burnt out. And she grabs her phone and she calls the local sign company before she's even to her desk and says, I need you to come out and fix her sign. They come out and fix her sign. She gives them her credit card and pays $5,000 to fix the sign. She's not even worried about it. She keeps the receipt. And then a couple weeks later, she remembered she did it. She turned it into whoever she turned it into and said, yeah, oh, sorry, I'm just submitting this. I got the sign fixed, whatever. That is incredible culture, right? And it starts from the top down. Everybody's going to do what you do, it a little bit less, right? How do you get people to do the right thing when no one's looking? That's the question. How do you get people to just genuinely want to serve the customer? And it's about you investing in them and caring about them at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. So, Liz, let's go with you. So you coach people. You see people with toxic cultures. How do you approach that?
So what I help people to see is to start to see people from a new lens. Like Josh was saying, you see things from your own lens. So I help people to pick up new glasses and to see new things. So I point out to them, instead of letting them talk about what's wrong and what's bad, I do two things. How can we fix that thing that's bad? If we're going to complain about it, we're only going to complain about it within the context of what we can do to fix it. Otherwise, we're not going to talk about it. So if it's something that's fixable, we'll talk about the fix. And if it's not, we're not going to talk about it at all, because there's no point to talking about stuff that you're not or you can't fix. It's a waste of your time and energy. So I just start getting them focused in that direction. Little by little, they start seeing what's good and what's right instead of what's bad and what's wrong. But a lot of times people get focused in on what's bad and what's wrong because they don't know how to fix it. And so they just grind on it over and over again. They just grind on this bad thing. But once they see that they have control and they have power in this situation, I have control and power over other business owners that have this negative mindset. I know how to get them to start seeing things in a more positive light. So I don't mind those business owners that have that negative mindset. I actually kind of like it because they get to have the culture that they want to create. Just like Josh was saying, we all have a culture currently already, and we've created it. We're part of that culture. And so if they want that negative culture, I'm fine with letting them have it, but most of the time they don't want that. And as soon as they realize that they can not have it just as easily as they can have it, then they're more amenable to trying to change and to wanting to change. The reason why those business owners have that mentality is they think they have no power, that it can't change. And it makes them not want to change, makes them fight against the people. They become opposition. And when people are oppositional, you're not getting anything out of them, just like our employees. If our employees are oppositional and they want what they want, they don't want what I want, we're on opposite sides of that fence. We just need to get on the same side, working for the same thing. So that's my strategy.
Okay. All right. Kurt, what about you? I think we talked about this a little bit, but there's different people with us.
Yeah, and I don't know if I could really add to anything that was said. Super smart people here. I'll just say this. I also do, I don't call it coaching, but I do jam sessions, and I guess you can call it consulting a bit with people who are stuck. And the biggest thing I would say that both Josh and Liz were basically all around but didn't actually say that I could add is that if you look at where you want to be and you look at the things that you're doing, you can figure out that you're probably, if you're not happy, you're probably walking down a path that's taking you to a place that you don't necessarily want to be. And I would say that if you combine what Josh and Liz already said and just took a minute to figure out what do you want? What do you want your business to be? What do you want your employees to have? What do you want your customer experience to be like? Like, just ask yourself what you want. What is your business supposed to be doing? And then just look at how you're spending your time, the actionable tasks that you're taking on. And probably, more than likely, you haven't even thought about what your daily activities, your strategies and tactics should be. And so that's a great place to start. And then, like Liz said, if you can take action on it, now you're in control. And you're influencing the world rather than letting the world just influence you.
And what do you guys think about this? I feel like people talk about company culture and what they can do to kind of create their company culture, but they don't really talk about what they can stop doing enough. That's what I see is more of really inconsistency and allowing things that they don't want. And to me, that is creating that culture. What do you guys think? Somebody go first. Doesn't matter to me.
I can go. I
Okay.
like to talk. I'm just going to keep doing it. Kurt will elaborate on this, but I won't steal your thunder because this is Kurt's thing, but he talks about the basketball court, right, with the lines, and he'll explain that. But here's my point. Employees crave certainty. Okay, they need to understand the rules of the game. They need to understand that this is where we are. This is where the company's going. Here's where I fit on the bus. This is my seat on the bus. These are my responsibilities while I sit in the bus seat and do my thing. And what happens is that us as leaders, we think that we're communicating our vision and accountability and all the things that we're supposed to communicate to our staff. We think we're doing it at a way higher level than the people under us actually feel is true, right? Another quote I like is that all conflict, all conflict is a result of unmet expectations. Okay.
Liz's favorite.
Oh, really? Okay. So I love that because, whether it's an argument with your wife, she's like, wait, you ate Taco Bell? And I'm like, yeah, it was really good. I ate it. I told you I was making dinner. No, I thought you bought the roast for tomorrow's dinner. I thought I could get taco. And it's like, and I totally dropped the ball, right? And so I'm clearly the guy that messed up, but she said Tuesday, not Monday, right? And your employees doing their time clock wrong or having a bad attitude or saying a comment under their breath. Sometimes you have to perform surgery and just remove very toxic, cancerous employees very decisively. Like, that's great, do that. But a lot of times people just don't have a lot of clarity on what the rules of the game are, on what their position is, and what is expected of them. They just don't know. You know in your brain, but we haven't done an effective job of transferring that into their brain. And when we do that, it creates a sense of certainty, right? Entrepreneurs are nuts. And I've started and sold multiple businesses, and I'm working on my fourth one right now, right? And so jumping off a cliff and building a plane on the way down, you've heard that. That's like an entrepreneur, right? An average person that wants to just play a role in a company and be an employee, like, they don't think that's awesome. They don't want to jump off a cliff and build a plane on the way down. They want to understand the rules of the game, understand what's in front of them, understand what the road to advancement and more pay is. How do I earn more money? How do I get a promotion? How do I move laterally or ascend in the company? All this stuff. It's our job to communicate it, right? So I think communication, although it sounds really generic and cheesy, is like the foundational issue with all of this stuff. Very poor communication, lots of assumptions being made about what people know or what they're supposed to know, with not enough execution on making sure everyone knows it.
Yep, sounds good. I am going to pass it to Kurt, but before I do, I'm just going to tell you guys, if you have any questions, because we're going to open it up to questions soon to be holding to time, then start typing them in chat. Okay, Kurt, I'm passing it to you.
All right. Well, before I get into the team thing, which is definitely something I love talking about, one of the things that Josh said is the reason my wife won't watch movies with me, like, at all really anymore, is because every single movie conflict has to do with somebody who won't communicate. Think about every Disney movie. Every Disney princess runs off, and she's so mad, and then a problem happens. But if she would have just said something, there'd be no movie. It would just be like a thing. Like Ariel would be like, Dad, I really want to go up on the land. But, honey, you can't go up there. Well, let's just talk it out. Like, Dad, I don't know if you know how important this is. Let me show you this place where I save all the human stuff. All right, fine. You can go on land. Here's legs. Rather than waste away making her not be able to talk and then have to make a guy fall in love with her and have the sea witch and all that. So that's every movie in the whole world. And so, yeah, like, our idea is not to have drama in our life, so we communicate. And we do that in our marriage and with our kids, and we do it with our employees. And anyway, my point in the, listening to Josh talk about the communication is that the basketball analogy I like to give is that, and this is actually the epiphany that I had when I was watching my own team. I'm at the park with my kids, and I'm watching these people on a basketball court, and they are absolutely just killing themselves. Like, I'm watching them play basketball, and I'm realizing these guys could not work any harder than they are right now. And they're doing it for what? Like, is anyone paying them? Are they in the NBA? No, they're not in the NBA. Are they going to get some sort of scholarship or something? No, they're going to get bragging rights, and that's it. But if you look at the mechanics of a pickup game of basketball, you can learn why people are willing to work so incredibly hard for basically nothing. If you just understand that, for example, if I took the out of bounds line off, if I just took that off, people would walk away. Because you'd have people running 150, 200, 300 yards off the side so that they can, so people won't press them. And then your endurance runners will just run for 5 miles, and then when everyone else is tired, they'll run up and just start scoring a bunch of baskets. And so, but that's just one little thing. And there's fouls, and there's just so many different rules to the game that we take for granted when you think about basketball. But what it is, it's those limits, putting those limits on, and then saying, here is the way you score. And you just need to score more than the other team, but you all have to live within these limits. You can't technically foul somebody. You can't punch someone in the face when you're mad. Like, there's just, here's some rules. And then the objective just has to be a shared objective. And if you've ever had a basketball swish through on a 3-point shot and you felt that feeling, that's what makes you take the next shot. It's that feeling of, I just scored. And if your team or your employees, if they know what your limits are, if they know what the goals are, if they get that celebratory feeling every time they score, and if you have a scoreboard for them to constantly refer to, and then you take it up a level and you start teaching them plays and different things that they can do with each other, you'll find that they will run and sprint and jump and do all the different things that are involved. They'll sweat their guts out. They'll twist their ankle for you. They'll do all these things all for fun because they're playing a game. Your game just needs to not suck. Like, and if your baskets, if the things that you're teaching them, like the goals that they're going for, if they make them feel even better as a human being, then now your game doesn't just not suck. It's actually a really fun game. And you'll be able to say to your employees as you're hiring them, you'll be able to say things to them like, you know what? You might not be with our company forever, but I'll tell you this. I guarantee you that if you're the person that I think you are, and you're willing to work through our certification program and be a part of our company, I'll guarantee you this. When you do, if you leave our company, you will always look back at your time at 5 Star Window Care as the most learning and growing time of your life, and I'll pit that against college. And when you can say that with all honesty, totally genuinely to either a prospective employee or even an actual, someone who's been with you for years, if your game is to make people better people, so we always said at 5 Star we try to make good men great and great men better. If you truly believe that, your game is actually taking your own personality and the things that you believe will enrich people's lives, and now you're extending your life into someone else's. And I don't know of another, as an entrepreneur, I don't know of another way in this world where you can inject yourself so fully into your employees and even your customers' lives via your employees and actually touch so many people. And that's exactly what our right is as an entrepreneur, especially one who sends people into homes. If you send people into homes, you are given one of the greatest privileges that could be bestowed upon a human being. And you put an entrepreneurship on top of that, and this ability to improve people and improve lives. I mean, you can sit and complain if you want, but you've been given the golden key. There's nothing to complain about. You've just got to figure out your game and make it fun and make it worthwhile.
All right.
Mic drop.
Inspirational. Yes. Exactly. You guys are all great on this, and you all have the common theme. And Liz, I'm going to get to you in a minute, but I know you all believe that, and that's at the core, that you truly, part of the reason that you had a business in the first place was to make a difference in people's lives, not only your clients, but your employees. So that's awesome. Okay, Liz, I know you believe that.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It's actually my mission statement. So,
yeah.
So one thing before I get, oh, sorry, what were you saying, Martha?
I said, it's just a little side thing for you.
Yeah. Little extra thing there.
Yeah.
So before I answer your exact question, I did want to add one thing onto what Kurt said. I love the whole basketball thing. It sounds like he works at my company. He's talking about my people. I love that. Just one thing that we add on to that I think he implied but maybe didn't say, is that it's awesome when you get that basket and you're going because you want to get it again because you love that feeling. But part of the team is to make you feel awesome about missing the basket too. That when you miss that basket, no problem. We got your back. We're here for you. And we're going to help you get better and practice so that you're hitting more baskets. So that idea of team is really big within that whole idea. Now back to your original question, Martha, about stop doing things. I think that for me, my thinking is not so much about stop doing things, but to understand that it's all about you. Like every problem that you see out there has you at its root. And that would be me at its root. So every time I see a problem, my life gets immeasurably easier because once I see the problem, I'm like, oh, that's just me. Some opportunity for me to change what I'm doing and make things better. I don't have to wait for somebody else. I don't have to get them to change what they're doing. I don't have to get them to fix their thing. I get to fix what I'm doing. I get to change what I'm doing, and I get to take control over this whole situation. So a lot of people don't like it when they see themselves as being wrong or being told you made a mistake. Me? Woohoo, glory! Because when it's my mistake, I can fix that. I can control that. Controlling other people, not so easy. But controlling yourself, and one of my big catchphrases that I tell people all the time, there's only one way to get other people to change. But you can do it. Because a lot of times people will say, you can't change other people. Oh, yes, you can by doing one thing. Change yourself. Change what you're doing, and they will change. Absolutely. That's it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, you guys have been awesome, and I don't want to go over on time. We had such a bad start, but we got it turned around. I don't see questions. Let me see. I know you guys have to have questions. So while you're thinking of something, I do want to say, you know, I talked to our speakers today before we met and just said, you guys, this is, you know, we're getting together. All of us will be together at the Quality Driven Conference, and I've been so fortunate that all these great people have said they are willing to come and help you. And to have these three together is going to be awesome because it's not going to be an hour, but it will be, I think it's 2 hours that you all are together and everybody's doing their own thing. But so they just gave you a glimpse. We didn't want to not give you content today. So hopefully it's been helpful, but it's just a glimpse of what we're going to do at the Quality Driven Conference, because it's really about, because I'm passionate about this, about helping our employees and giving them the rules of the game. And to me, Quality Driven is a lot about giving the rules of the game and making it transparent. So if you're interested, message me, go to qualitydrivensoftware.com. That's the biggest sales pitch I'm going to do about it, and all the information's there, but I hope you join us. So any questions? Okay, I don't see anything. The last thing let's end with, because I did save a couple of things, but we're out of time. But so what, Liz, you touched on earlier that, or somebody did, now I forgot, but touched about, you know, you don't really have people who, I shouldn't say it's not a normal thing to have in your company. It all happens to the best of us, but people that just don't show up, or people that you can't count on to do a good job in the home, or people that are going to be milking their time. And why would you think that's not normal for you?
Yeah, thanks for clearing that up, Martha, because you're right. We do have that stuff happen. It's just not the norm. And those people they'll self-eject. We don't have to worry about firing them. They cannot handle our culture and they will leave. I would say that the reason why is we're all focused on the same thing. We're all playing the same game. We're all trying to get to the same place, get the same stuff done. And so we don't need somebody. We play under the idea that we're all adults playing the same game. I don't really need somebody to come and check my work. Why? Unless I haven't been trained to do my job. But of course, I'm going to be working to the best of my ability all of the time. That's what we do. If I'm not able to for some reason, I'm going to tell you and I'm going to ask for your help. So I don't need somebody to check on me because I'll ask for the help I need. I don't need you to tell me when I'm doing stuff wrong. So that really is the bottom line. Is we're all playing the same game and we're all focused on the same thing. We all want the same things. So there's no need. There's just not a need for those things.
And if they don't want those same things,
they don't want to work for us. They end up just trying to find another job because usually what will happen is this. Oh man, those people are crazy. Are you kidding me? Like every single person is like constantly about, got to do this exactly right, or that kind of stuff, and they can't handle it. So we call it self-ejecting.
I'm out.
I'm out. Exactly.
Or Josh, either one of you. I know you don't have service businesses right now, but when you did, and before you sold, give your take on why those people why you didn't have that happening to you all the time. Why was that not your culture?
Okay. Kurt's looking at me funny, so I'll say it first. It's exactly what Liz said. When you have a very consistent, well-communicated on a regular basis forever and ever and all of eternity, non-negotiable, no exceptions, no excuses, tone and personality and culture for your business. Inside of that environment, this is our identity. This is what we are. When that's actually alive, even if it's not perfect, a foreign entity that doesn't fit in there, it just cannot, it's gross. They can't deal with it. So self-eject's a great phrase, but we still had issues. And I always tell people I've been stabbed in the back, but I've also been stabbed in the front by employees a few times. But that's okay. That's the cost of being the guy that jumps off the cliff and builds a plane on the way down. But if you're driving the ship, doing your communication, investing in people's lives, understanding who they are as humans. Remember, they're not human capital. They're just humans. If you care about them, you know their girlfriend's name. You know they're trying to buy that house. You know they're trying to pay off that student loan. You're talking about it all the time. You're doing planned randomness. You're investing in them as people, and you're running your meetings, and it's positivity, and you're giving rewards, and you are the fearless leader. If that is reality in your company, someone that is uncomfortable in that environment will definitely leave without being asked to leave.
Yep. Okay. Kurt?
Yeah, so actually I was reading this question here from Scrub Cleaning. I don't know what Scrub Cleaning's real human name is, but
Warren. That's Warren.
That's
Lauren?
our buddy Warren.
Oh, Warren.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Warren, so I think that that's really interesting. I'm not sure exactly what I said that made it seem very male-oriented, but in all honesty, I only had two females working for me. Both of them were in the office. So whatever it was that I said, it came across pretty true. Our rules in the office were slightly different. It was a different position on the team, right? So they had different things that they did versus what was done in the field. But this much I feel like I can say about people sticking or leaving, and I think that question was really well put, is that, how would you translate a game to men and women. And I think it's important we're noting, I think in today's world, seems like the world is trying to break up that men and women are the same somehow, like we're exactly the same.
False.
And somehow it's like not popularly cool to say false, Josh.
Equal, but absolutely different.
Oh,
equal, but different.
Yeah. And I think that's an important distinction, though, is that it's so true. And I learned this when I was born into a family of 3 sisters. I learned that girls have thoughts that I would never have, that they do things that make absolutely no sense to me. And it was important early in my life to distinguish between, like, before you tell her that that's stupid, maybe ask her why. And there, without a doubt, will be a why. Like, she'll be able to answer, like a woman typically can. But I married a woman who I was able to really get with, and we communicate well, and everything's great. But later on in my church, I served in a position that was my first time really serving with a woman. I'd always kind of just worked with men, I guess. I did landscaping jobs and other things. And I learned a lot in that little period of time, even having had sisters. And here's what I would say about the team thing, is that there are women's basketball leagues, and there's a reason that they don't put women's leagues with men's leagues. From a physical standpoint, I think that, there's an obvious difference between men and women just kind of genetically. And so what you want to be is abundantly clear on what you want. And in the interviewing process, in the hiring process, being crystal clear as to what position you're hiring for, what will be asked of them. And your vision, that's kind of the beautiful part about you having a vision, is that if your vision is do these things, make the world better this way, here's how we operate together. If you can put all that on paper, it becomes a conversation right up front. Like, will you feel comfortable doing this? Will you feel comfortable with that? Tell me what this means to you. Tell me. And if for whatever reason the gender of the person is at the crux of that, I would say that in my window cleaning pressure washing company, that if there was a woman who was willing to work out in the Phoenix heat of the summer and was willing to play the game, I would have had absolutely no problem with that. I didn't get any women apply for it, but for my office jobs, I had more women than men apply. And they loved the rules in the office of the game, and they enjoyed the game and all the things that we did that way. Yeah. And I'm a big believer. Liz is going to absolutely destroy me on this, but I just gotta be real for a second. I'm gonna be super real with you guys for just a second. I believe that there is no greater incentive in this world than being very transparent, even if that means publicly shaming. Now there is a limit. There is a limit to it, for sure. But Liz said earlier, and this is not what she said, but I'm just extrapolating from it, but she said when someone misses a basket, that we've got their back, right? I think that being super real with your employees when there's a failure and letting everyone know, hey, we failed. And I would never necessarily call someone out by name, but it seems like whenever you say something publicly about a failure, the person who fails always goes, oh, that was me. I know he's talking about me. That was over at so-and-so's house. Oh, yeah. Well, listen up. We're gonna learn here together. And when people know that you're really transparent and that they may be ashamed at some point, I believe that their behavior will they know that there's no dark corners to go hide in. And so I promise you that even though what I said probably sounded really horrible, I promise it all comes from a good place, in that I believe that if you want to be a pirate on my ship, and I've talked to you about this before, Martha, you want to get on my pirate ship and you're going to sail under my flag, you got to be cheering and running and excited about where we're going and what we're doing. You got to be just as excited about the good stuff as you are about fixing the problems along the way. So transparency, maybe even a little humiliation. But we always attack problems, not people, right? So I love you. You made a mistake. We're all going to learn from this mistake, because if I ever see this mistake again, we're going to have a really big problem, and we all have to learn. So anyway.
All right. So I have to respond.
Can I say something?
I was called out.
Here
You called me out.
you go, Kurt.
Okay, so nope, I'm sorry. I have to argue with you. I don't believe in public shaming at all. I do believe in we all share in every failure. So there's no reason for anyone to feel shamed. If you missed a basket, that's all of our mistakes. Yeah, we didn't play well, and that's a we thing. So there's no reason to have anyone feel publicly shamed, but we call out all the mistakes. When we post our scores, our quality scores, the worst scores go up with the best scores. When somebody's making mistakes, bad feedback, hey, bad feedback is great feedback. Remember, I'm a big believer in accepting responsibility for mistakes and for problems. I love that. I love it. So I just don't think of it as shaming. I think of it as just accepting reality. So I think we're kind of on the same page.
Well, now you gotta let me like come in here and like get in on the goodness. This is fun now. I hear what Liz is saying, and I hear what I think is the intent of what she's saying, and I hear what Kurt's saying, and I know Kurt on a personal level, and so I totally know his intent. But part of me feels like part of what Liz is saying implies, not that that's what she means, because I'm certain it's not what she means, but it implies that you overlook poor performance, or you do like a socialism type approach to poor performance. Like, well, we got our top performers and we got our bad performers, but we're all just part of the bad. Well, no, actually, like Joe is bad. And we don't have to like sit them down and tell everybody Joe sucks. No, take responsibility. You're the leader. It falls on you. Coach them through it, of course. But you'd want to like live in the reality of everybody's individually rewarded and responsible for like their own actions and stuff. Like if someone isn't coming to work and they keep doing no call, no shows, that's not like a we problem as much as it is a Joe problem for whatever reason, and we can coach through. That's my perspective on it. And then the other thing I was going to say about the women being different than men thing, one of the biggest mistakes I almost made was not hiring a female technician to go lug ladders around and clean stuff. This girl weighed 100 pounds and I didn't want to hire her. And my business partner, Chris, who's much more smarter than I am, he said, no, she is outstanding. She's the one. I said, can she do it? But she was claiming, she's like, oh, I'm going to be the best window cleaner you ever seen in your life. I'm going to wash houses. She deeply wanted the job. And I just thought it was crazy. So we hired her, and she was a complete rock star, changed her entire life around, ended up getting a house, getting married, because she also had some background there that was some dark past stuff. She was one of our she was the most requested technician at our company. She outperformed the men every day. And inside that gamified culture, she loved it. Like, she loved the game. So I don't think it applies or doesn't apply to women. I have lots of female friends that are way more obsessed with sports than me. The question is the human you're talking to interested in playing that game with you? Which is what Kurt said. He said, explain the rules in the context of the game. And up front with transparency. If they're like, heck yeah, that's the best thing ever, then it works. And I wouldn't have thought that in my own like dumb male bigoted brain on accident. Like, but I was so wrong. And this lady was she made us so much money. It was insane. So those are my comments on those two issues.
So this is going to be fun in San Diego in person. And this is really what I'm passionate about, like giving our attendees different viewpoints. You guys are all very similar, but you go about things a little bit differently. And we all know that, nobody's cookie cutter, and that what Josh says, I'm going to buy into everything he says.
No, that's what you're supposed to do. That's how you do it. I don't understand.
Okay. That's my plan. That's what I'm going to do tomorrow, starting tomorrow.
But so what's going to be cool is not just this panel, but you're going to have different people talking about the same subject. They do it a little bit differently. They're all successful. and you get to pick and choose what resonates with you. There may be something that Kurt talked about and it's like, I want to do that piece.
Not the shaming. Not the shaming.
Yeah, because you're such a bad person, Kurt. Yeah. But no, and it's going to be cool for you guys to be in person, and I cannot wait. It's going to be awesome. So I thank you for doing this. I thank you for coming to San Diego. Kurt's driving after a all-day event to come and be with us, and so I really do appreciate it.
So excited.
It'll be good. And San Diego in February. Can't beat that.
No kidding.
So, all right. I think that's it. I don't think
Thanks,
we have
Martha.
any.
Nice to meet you, Kurt, and nice to meet you finally, Josh.
Nice to meet you, Liz.
Sorry for
Great
the
job.
difficulties at the beginning. Now, Maria and I know, do not try to be doing a demo while we're talking. So, love it. So, thank
Bye, y'all. Bye, Jorge.
You just
Bye,
lost a
Jorge.
sale. You lost a sale
Bye,
to the
Karina.
webinar.
you. All right. Bye.
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 Appreciate it.
See you, San
Merry
Diego.
Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.